Hey, everybody, and welcome to AQ's Blog and Grill. Really excited today to have Lindsay Coulter on. Lindsay is an entrepreneur extraordinaire. I've known Lindsay for certainly over 5 years, maybe as many as 10. Um, and she's always got something on the go. In the last couple of years, things have really picked up, and she's the founder and owner of Lindsay Coulter Photography and a few other things that are kind of exciting to talk about. So, welcome, Lindsay.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting. I actually cannot believe that it has been that long, 10 years, but you're totally right. I think that we met when I was a co-op student at the University of Waterloo. And so I
That is
can't
great.
believe that time has gone by that quickly.
Yeah, and so many achievements. And I know at that time when you were a student, you'd already opened up your own yoga studio. Is that about right?
Yes, that is correct. So, yeah, about 10 years ago, when I was a student at the University of Waterloo for geography and environmental management, I had started Pura Vida Yoga, which was my first experience, I would say, at entrepreneurism and experiencing we didn't call it a side hustle then, but a side hustle really.
Right.
I was in university and working at restaurants and doing all of the normal jobs that most university students do. When I decided that I was going to go to Georgian College at the same time for yoga, so I started a yoga business. That was my first experience at running my own company, and rather than trading an individual hour for a certain amount of money, it was
Right.
my first experience at building something,
Yeah.
creating a website, understanding branding and marketing and all of that stuff. And although a few years down the line, I decided that I loved yoga, but had different aspirations as far as career goals. I definitely learned a lot from it. That was a great time in my life. I really loved it.
So, the old saying is, I think it was Bill Gates who said it lately, is if you've got something that needs to get done, give it to a busy person. You've always been kind of busy in my eyes.
Yes, yes. I have always been busy. And over the past few years, I've really tried hard to be conscious of how I'm busy and what I'm busy with. Um, Even when I was younger, I was in musicals and cheerleading and dance, and every single night of the week after school, my parents were driving my brother and I around doing things.
Right.
And they always felt meaningful and impactful. So I never felt like, once I got into university and was in both university and college and running a business and had a part-time job, and I was teaching piano at the time, and none of that ever seemed unreasonable, because it all felt like it was taking me on the path that I wasn't sure what the path was
Uh-huh.
heading towards yet, but it felt like it was going on some kind of a path. Um,
So, what do
so
you think, Lindsay? What do you think it was that was driving you from this early age? I mean, that's a lot of activity. You said it was meaningful. What was it in that meaning that kept driving you forward?
I've always been a very ambitious person. I just have been. I maybe it's the that I'm a second child, or maybe it's that I am an Aries and a Virgo, whatever it may be. In whatever world you believe in, I've just always been really ambitious. My parents have always really instilled that in me, and I kind of just felt like if other people are going to support me in these endeavors, like my parents were willing to drive us around and sacrifice so much of their lives, like why wouldn't I be, taking advantage of that? So
Right.
I've always just been really ambitious. I've never really felt like enough is enough, which is a blessing and a curse.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
So right now, I mean, you've forged a new career in photography. Your studio, you've just reopened in your new space there.
Yes, we're
Uh,
here now. Yeah.
yeah, that's great. And you're traveling the world on assignments. Some of those are event oriented, weddings being one of those.
Yeah.
Um, So, how does that fit with what may or may not be your destination in the future? It must be really uh, exciting for you.
It is exciting. I have never really taken it for granted the trajectory that things have gone for me. I would say there's definitely been a turning point, and that would probably have been when I was Miss Oktoberfest in 2012. All of the things that I had done up until that point were driving me into becoming a community leader,
Right.
and an ambassador for the community. And I was finally able to take all of the things, and I say finally, I was 22 years old, but finally able to take all of the things that I had been putting into practice and be able to act on them and be able to help our community grow and understand the economics behind community building. And you're a huge community builder, so you understand how much value there is in putting your own efforts and your own talents behind a community organization, something like Oktoberfest. So, um, from that point, from 2012, it was also the time that I met my now husband, Taylor Jackson, who is also a photographer and filmmaker. We were on your blog and grill, like 2013, I think, right?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Um, and that really just changed the course of things for me. I think aligning yourself with the right people in the right moment is what any entrepreneur is going to say got them to the point that they're currently at.
Right.
Not that this is it for me by any means, but I think aligning your own vision and your values and combining that with other humans that have the same drive to do fun and interesting things.
Right.
Um, that's kind of how I got myself into this position now. So I met Taylor. I was completely inspired by his drive to build a lifestyle rather than a job or a career.
Right.
That his focus was always on creating and building new things and trying new things and seeing what works and seeing what fails. And I realized that that's what I had been doing this entire time. I just didn't quite know it yet.
Right.
With yoga and with going to school for geography, I was just trying things and I was creating and I was absorbing knowledge. Um, and I was just trying to see what was going to work.
Right.
I think that's probably what most entrepreneurs do, really. So for me, photography worked. Photography was the thing that allowed me. What I wanted by going into school for geography was to learn more about the world and
Right.
to see people and how they lived in all kinds of ways and places. And I sadly learned fairly early on that geography was probably not the way to travel the world. It was
Who knew?
learn about it from a theoretical standpoint. But with photography, I get to meet people. It's just the medium for me to introduce myself in a
Mhm.
way to get to know people and to put myself into somebody else's shoes for that day, whether it be for a wedding or whether it be traveling to Iceland with a bunch of people that are just looking to go on an adventure.
Right. So you have been to Iceland. That wasn't too long ago, and now you're just back from Maui, where you were out on a whale watching expedition.
Oh, I love whales. The greatest creatures ever. Yes. So for the past 3 or 4 months, I have been not shooting weddings. So it was a really big priority of mine to take a step back as a creative yourself. I'm sure that you get this. If you're constantly creating on a deadline, it's very hard to create on a larger scale.
Right.
I find that if I'm constantly creating for clients or I'm constantly under pressure, I really thrive on pressure. So it's not like it's not like I don't appreciate a deadline. I really do, but I do my best work when I'm able to take a step back and have some breathing room.
Right.
Um, so this year, well, really, it was actually a year and a half ago that I kind of made this decision because in the wedding industry, things happen much further out. But about a year and a half ago, I realized that I wanted to take the winter off. I am moving towards photography education and helping photographers and creatives build their businesses in sustainable ways. So I realized that there was not going to be space for that side of growth if I was still constantly in the trenches
Right.
in my photography business. Um,
Now, I, Lindsay, sorry, I did speak to a couple of your clients from the wedding side of things, and I asked them, how was it shooting your day, your big day, with a photographer like Lindsay Coulter? The comments that came back were just amazing in terms of Lindsay was so much more than a photographer.
oh,
They,
that's very sweet.
yeah, they could have hired somebody with a lens and a
Sure.
shutter. But you became part of the celebration, not just part of the schedule, not just part
Right.
of the day. And was that something that you consciously went out to do in terms of kind of make yourself different than just be the wedding photographer?
Absolutely. I think, as any photographer will tell you, there are so many different styles of photography. Um, Even within wedding photography, there are different styles and personalities that go into it. But um, through my yoga training, actually, I really started to learn about people's energy and how we give and take energy back and forth from each other. And the first few weddings that I shot alongside Taylor when I was first getting started, I was given the incredible ability to not be the main photographer, but to be the observer and to pick up on what kind of images are we able to create when people are under stress, and what kind of images are we able to create when people are feeling at ease and confident and happy and enjoying themselves. So while it certainly isn't my job to fix someone's hair and makeup when it goes awry, and it's definitely not my job to go and grab them a mimosa when somebody's stressing them out. I'm going to do that because I understand the energy and I understand um, the confidence that people feel when they think that you're on their team. Rather than just somebody there stalking them for the day. So that makes me so happy to hear that the clients that you've spoken to have said that, because I really do. I try to make myself a part of the celebration for many reasons, but one of them is just I think it makes the energy of the entire day. It makes your bride and groom or bride and bride feel more confident. It makes their guests feel happy. It makes everyone just feel like this girl's got it. She's taking care of this. We don't need to put any stress on this.
Right. Now, CNN did a story on you not too long ago about a particular wedding that you were a photographer. You were the photographer for, and how you helped solve a big problem that came up just before the big moment. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So a few years ago, we were experiencing very interesting time in North America and Canada. It was during what I guess would have been called in the news the Syrian refugee crisis, where a lot of people were moving from Syria trying to find homes all around the world. And you're probably like, what does this have to do with wedding photography? I wondered the same thing in the same moment. I was shooting a wedding for a bride from Toronto who was getting married in Cambridge, and they were staying at an Airbnb in Guelph. So, very all over Ontario for this one. Um, the bride and groom had family from all over the world. So they figured rather than bringing them just to Toronto, they were getting married at the Cambridge Mill. They stayed in Guelph because they had found this beautiful Airbnb. But when I arrived, there was a little bit of a panic because the bride's dress had just broken. The zipper on her dress was irreparable. There was really no solving it. And we had obviously it was like one of those wedding reality TV shows. Will it happen in time? She has a half an hour to get this ready. This is exactly how this was going. And honestly, there wasn't a whole production crew there. It was just me to solve this problem. So I had asked one of the bridesmaids if she wanted to run next door. I noticed that the neighbor had their garage door open, so they were obviously home. Asked if they have pliers that we could pry the zipper open and clamp it on. This is the best I could do. It was certainly not going to be good enough, but it would be maybe good enough to get her into the limo, to get to the venue where someone far more qualified for this situation could have helped. Um, so a few moments later, the bridesmaid came back. She had pliers in her hand and then said, the neighbors next door are coming over in a few minutes. They are sponsoring a Syrian refugee family who literally just got to their home yesterday. And the father of the family that had traveled here was a master tailor from Aleppo. So it couldn't have been more serendipitous that this man happened to be there. And not only did he happen to be there, that he was willing to come over and help out with this situation with people he had never met before.
Right.
When he arrived, we found out that he didn't speak any English at all. They used Google Translate to communicate back and forth with us, but really it was sort of just like universal gestures of thank you, and we're pointing to this very broken dress. So we were able to just kind of stand back and let this man do his work. He was able to sew up the bride's dress within just a few moments. He had his young son standing right by his side the entire time. Um, and yeah, they finished it up, sort of gave a thank you to each other, and we went on our way. And I'm realizing I'm the only one that has these moments documented, and really hope that this just worked out well, because this is, if for no one else, a really important story for the Dudu family who had just arrived from Syria, that I wanted to share the photos with them as a sign of gratitude,
Mhm.
but also to the bride and groom that had just hired me.
Right. So you MacGyvered your way out of that situation.
Absolutely. Yeah. I, by the grace of God and politics, Justin Trudeau
Yeah.
himself, we were able to get a man with much better skills in there than me. And as a very liberal person myself, I felt like this is the story that Canada needs to hear right now.
Right.
So, as photographers, we like to call ourselves storytellers, and I really felt like this was a story that needed to be told. So I uh, made a post on my Facebook, on my business page, with a few of the photos and a story about sort of just the human spirit, and that I was so grateful that regardless of where I happened to be born, or where this man happened to be born, we all kind of got that in a moment of need, we would all help each other out. Obviously, his need for having a safe and healthy home to live in was much higher than her need for a fixed dress. But one of the things that Mr. Dudu did say right after, via translation, he said he was always really excited to help Canadians. He just didn't expect to be able to do it so quickly.
Oh, that's great. Um, so you have a new podcast.
I do.
Yeah, I think you and Tim are
I
doing
was
something.
inspired by you.
Well, can you share with us what it's about? Because I think it's a great idea.
Absolutely. Thank you. So, it is a podcast called Drink the Coffee, Do the Work. And I host it with my friend and co host, Timothy Musa. He's also a photographer and filmmaker. Our group of friends is very interesting and eclectic, but we all tend to be creative types. So, Tim and I were sitting around my studio one day and just chatting about um, the different ways in which entrepreneurs get the work done, and why are some people more successful than others. Why do some people with really great ideas never execute? What are the ways in which people's businesses are thriving or not thriving, and why? And I kind of just made a joke like, well, I just drink the coffee and I just do the work, right? And for some of us, it really is just that simple.
Yeah.
When motivation is not there, what do you do?
Yeah.
I mean, I caffeinate. But listening to podcasts, and there's so many different ways. But we wanted to ask other people, what are the things that you do? So we've gotten some really great, like tangible suggestions from a ton of people from all across the board. We've had
Right.
um, naturopaths and therapists and other photographers. We have a celebrity stylist that we're filming with next week. So just
Okay.
like everybody that's getting work done, we want to hear
Yeah.
from those people. So
Yeah.
it's been really interesting. It's been really exciting. The podcast episodes are all half an hour, really short, concise episodes.
Right.
Um, the very manageable amounts of time for very busy people. So
Yeah.
yeah, we've been really enjoying it. Selfishly, I love it. It's a really great excuse to meet and interview great people and ask them questions that I'm sure other people would love to know the answers to.
Yeah. Oh, excellent! Congratulations, and I know
Thank
it's going to do
you.
well. I just came across it the other day, so I saw your list of guests, and there's a couple on there that I want to nail down and find out what it is that makes them work.
How
Uh,
do they get it going?
yeah,
Absolutely. Well, listen in.
I will. And everyone at home can listen in. What is the? How do we find the podcast, Lindsay?
So we're on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. If you have any trouble finding them on there, the easiest spot really is always just to go to our Instagram where we link to everything every week. If you
Okay.
follow us on Instagram, then you'll also get notifications once a week whenever we bring out new episodes. So
Okay.
we're just at Drink the Coffee, Do the Work.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, Lindsay, you're someone I think that keeps learning. You're a lifelong learner, and I think if I can guess, you're going to continue to do that, to be that. Who are the people that you've learned a lot from? Who's influenced you and your approach to life, as well as your craft?
That I love that question. Yeah, I definitely have been inspired by so many people, and whether it be reading or listening to audiobooks, whatever it may be, I think um, that's the only way that our lives stay interesting is by
Right.
constantly learning about the world. It also helps you from getting bogged down by the negativity of the news and all that stuff. Is if you can just be constantly consuming. There's so much positive, great stuff to be learned out there
Yep.
that's what I try to surround myself with. One of the very first people, and actually, I believe that you know her well, that I would say inspired me early on was a woman named Carol Stewart. Um,
Yes.
so Carol was my first real employer, I should say.
Okay.
I had so many jobs growing up, and I learned something from all of them. But the first woman to ever really go out on a limb for me. So I was at University of Waterloo in a co-op program,
Right.
and I can't say enough about co-op. I think it's such a great experience. It teaches you what you want to do and what you don't want to do,
Right.
and it's really such an amazing experience. So I was in, like I had mentioned, in school for geography and environmental management, and
Yes.
I was struggling in my first term to get a job. Who wants to hire a first year geographer? Not a whole lot of people, surprisingly, which is real. This is a very real world event. Go and try to find a job as a geographer without a full degree or anything. You're going to be hard pressed. So I learned how to work my network. And Carol and my father were friends, and Carol said, "Hey, I'll bring this girl on." So I worked as a marketing co-op student for her,
Great.
and she told me that she really aimed to hire young women. She wanted to inspire young women to get into the tech industry. So she was at the time, and I'm going to mess up her role, but we'll say like the director of the research and technology park at the University of Waterloo. So
Yep.
she has a huge role, and she has just skyrocketed from there.
Yep.
And I feel so honored to have been taken under her wing. She is a woman that drinks the coffee and does the work. She just
And
gets stuff
she's in
done.
Arizona now, right? Yeah.
She is. She has gone far beyond what anyone I'm sure in her life ever told her she was capable of. She has broken down barriers. She is a very powerful and influential woman in the tech space, and that was not a common thing
Right.
many years ago, right? So she's just inspiring. She really gave me my first leg up, and through that, she introduced me to people. She was constantly telling me to get up and go to networking events, to stop working in the office and go and volunteer at TEDx, or
Mhm.
she got me a role volunteering for Sustainable Waterloo because she knew that that would be more aligned with my education. She was just exceptional. So
Right.
I think it's really important for women in positions of power and of privilege to be helping each other out, and that's exactly what she did for me. So I've been
Excellent.
really inspired by that. I took on my first co-op student this year because of her, and yeah, she was really really inspiring for me.
Excellent. Good. Anyone else come to mind? I mean,
Absolutely.
Carol's a
I
great
mean,
example.
I could go on, honestly, there's like 50 people that come to mind. My husband is a huge one. Taylor is a source of constant inspiration and motivation. I'm always trying to um, observe and learn from him. The ways that he works and the ways that his brain thinks is just different. It
Right.
really is. He just thinks differently than most people, and there's no secret sauce for why that happens. It's truly, I've come to learn he just works really really hard, and he
Right.
loves what he does, and he is not afraid of failing. He's not afraid of making a mistake. He does everything from a place of kindness and authenticity. And yeah, really everything that I know, it sounds so like I'm the softest person, but I am a softie when it comes to Taylor. I love him. He's such a source of inspiration for me. And he's constantly pushing me and constantly motivating me. So it's a blessing to have him as a partner in every in every aspect of my life for sure.
Well, that's great. And I've known Taylor for quite a while too. And he's a guy that kind of made his own career as well. I
Absolutely.
mean, yeah, he started shooting video of his friends that were in bands playing at the local Maxwell's music house, and kaboom! Uh,
Yep.
he's traveling the world now on
Exactly.
different shoots.
Yeah.
Uh, Yeah. So
His
how
never
does
I think the biggest thing that I've taken away from Taylor's life and everything that he's accomplished to this point is he's never waited for anyone to give him permission to do something.
right,
And he's never waited for anyone to do it first for him to decide that he was going to do something. He
right?
would just go out and do it and see if it worked, which is a scary thing. Uncharted territory is a scary thing, but it's a big reason why he's been so successful.
Let's speak about another part of your success, and where this came from. I'm not sure. Was it a year or 2 years ago when you launched Georgian Bay, which is a clothing line?
It is. It is. I mean, speaking of being busy, I am always looking for new creative outlets. And Georgian Bay, so it's spelled BAE, was it actually came out of my bachelorette party, which was two years ago now. My girlfriends and I had rented a cottage in Muskoka, and a lot of us were, trying to come up with fun ideas for things that we could do as a group. And we thought it would be very fun to make sweaters that were sort of cheeky and fun, and we could take cute group photos, what have you. So we created these sweaters that just said Georgian Bay on them. And tons of people, and I mean an overwhelming amount of people, sent me messages asking where we bought them. I was like, "Well,
Mhm.
we didn't buy these." And I'm not about to get out a screen printer. So I waited on it for a little bit and then just decided, well, I mean, if people are coming out of the woodworks wanting these things, it would be easy enough for us to do it. I have a lot of friends at Shopify. We're really lucky that we have Shopify in Waterloo. So learning about a direct to consumer kind of um, business was totally new to me. I had never even thought about drop shipping, or I mean, creating a brand was not new to me. I've had to do that over and over again. So I knew that I had the ability to build a website and come up with designs. Like that seemed like the easy part, finding customers. It just seemed like, well, this will be this weird thing I'm going to have to do to try to figure out how to sell these and shipments. And I never wanted to be out packing things up myself, mailing things out to people. But through the help of a lot of people at Shop, I was able to get this business up and running. And it's been really fun. It honestly has taken all the things that I've learned about social media and network marketing and um, just strong branding and just keeping things really simple. We've never really done anything crazy. We just do Georgian Bay and a couple of other simple slogans, sweatshirts, tank tops, pants, like nothing nuts. We don't go crazy.
Yeah.
Um, keep things really simple. We know what we're good at. So it's been a really fun side hustle. I by no means think that this is my retirement plan. I have so much respect for people that are in the apparel and retail space. Oh my goodness, that's a lot. It's just a lot of hustle that goes into that. But it's really fun. It is really, really fun.
Well, Lindsay, before we consider your retirement, maybe a little early, but could you share with us maybe two or three things of the advice that you would give to somebody who's 18, uh, let's say a woman, uh, just started in university? What sort of things, through your experience and your now wisdom, could you point out to them as hints to, if they wanted to, they could get going, they could drink the coffee and do the work?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was actually thinking about this the other day. Like, what would you tell your younger self?
Right.
I was listening to a podcast, and one of the women was giving advice to her younger self. And I think that the biggest piece of advice that I would give to a young woman that was in my sort of same sphere, right? Already on the track of really wanting to do good things and create good things, but really still struggling to figure that out.
Hmm.
Um, I think the first thing that I would say is just like cut out all of the noise. Anything that doesn't fit into this narrow scope of your vision of success, just cut it out.
Hmm.
And at that age, right, at the age of 18 to 20 something, a lot of it is your social circle. So the people you're surrounding yourself with, the ones that you are spending your most time with. You know, we've all heard that the five people you spend your most time with are the ones you become the most like.
Right.
At 18, you're probably holding on to people that you curated through high school or just through your childhood. And now you're at this time where you have this like amazing opportunity to curate people based on your future life, not just the one that was handed to you based on your geography, right?
Right.
Not just based on these people lived near me and we were in the same catchment area during high school. So now we're friends. You get the opportunity to hand select humans that want to get on this ride with you.
Right.
And be okay with them not being there forever. Sometimes they're just for a season, but just kind of cut out all of the noise. So if you're having, issues with friends or relationships or whatever, none of that in 10 years will ever matter.
Right.
But your goals and staying focused on what those goals are, and moving forward and always reminding yourself, okay, I got off track there, but moving forward. And I got off track there, but moving forward. Never considering things as a total failure. I think
Right.
women, especially, can be really, really hard on themselves.
Hmm.
Um, A-type driven, motivated women, we can be the hardest on ourselves, harder than anybody can be. But taking failures, write them down and don't call it a failure. So it's a jumping off point. We all know that. Every
Right.
single person that's ever experienced anything, like I could look back at, oh, I never started a yoga studio per se. I always taught privately out of people's homes. And was that a failure? Absolutely not. I would have considered it a failure if I had held on to the dream of owning a studio for so long that I missed what I was meant to do.
Right.
So yeah, just kind of, I would say just keeping focus, just really never losing sight, and never feeling you have to have your focus so nailed in, like that I never knew I was going to be a photographer. If I
Right.
had believed that, this probably wouldn't have happened, right? So I think build your picture of what your life will look like. Will
Right.
you be surrounded by people that love you? Will you have a dog? Will you have a home? Will you travel? Will you be able to travel to go up north? Like one of my biggest things was that I always wanted the freedom to go up to my family's cottage. And that may seem like a small thing, but it's not.
Right.
Um, it's part of the reason why I put so much energy into Georgian Bay is because now I have a real like business financial excuse to go up north to my family's cottage.
Great.
Um, and not that I think spending time with my family isn't worth it enough, but it's nice to have a write off.
That's
um,
good business advice right there.
it just
It's
is.
good to have a write-off.
I
Yeah.
just think it's nice to have the write off. Yeah. But yeah, I think just keeping focus, never losing sight of what your goal of who you want to be is, just not necessarily what the job is or the role is or anything, but like what kind of a human do you feel like being in the future?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So just
So
keeping that focus.
as we push through this obstacle of retirement, which I'm not endorsing at all for you,
I
maybe
don't
for
think it
me.
will ever happen. I mean, are you going to ever retire?
No, never.
No, it
No.
just seems like it wouldn't be fun.
Yeah. My retirement party is going to be at a local funeral home. That's it.
I hope I get an invitation.
Oh, absolutely. You're on the list. You have to get up to the cord though, and they'll have to check a clipboard and say, "Oh yes, you're Lindsay
Uh,
Taylor." Taylor. Yeah,
mm,
kidding.
okay.
So, what's next though? Do you have any idea? Is there a vision there with Lindsay Coulter that says, "I think this is where I'm going to go next"?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that if I'm not thinking about what's next, it's because we're at the funeral home. um, yeah, I'm always thinking about what's next. I am always trying to figure out how this is going to grow. And um, I think sometimes I have to remind myself that what's next could just be enjoying the phase that we're in.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
what's next could just be, well, good for you. You finally figured out that you don't work long weekends. Certain things. Just I have really created a business that I love, and
Mhm.
that it's a really nice space to be in. Um,
Right.
as a person that's always thinking about what is next, it's hard sometimes to it's sometimes hard to appreciate where you are.
Right.
So I have really taken the time to just love this phase. However, I mentioned that I do teach photographers sort of business advice and strategies and all of those kinds of things. So um, that is the next thing that I'm working on right now is
Okay.
into the educational side of things. I think I'll always be a photographer. I'll never let that go. I just love
Right.
creating too much,
Yep.
just creating in different ways and teaching other photographers how to have profitable businesses. I think teaching photographers and creatives what that can look like. I think for a really long time we have romanticized the idea of the starving artist.
Right.
I, I don't think there's anything romantic about it.
No,
I think
there's not.
there's not, right? And if even one person can quit their crummy 9 to 5 and be able to run their household how they want and have the freedom to travel and experience life, and instead of people saying, oh wow, I wish I could do those things, if I could say you can, that's like the greatest feeling ever. So
Yeah.
um yeah, that's the next thing for me, is just trying to share all of the things that have been given to me and all of the um, privilege and education and all of that stuff that has been handed to me. I would love to be able to share that with other people.
That's a wonderful thing. Lindsay, how are people going to find you online? How are they going to find Lindsay Coulter photography?
So Instagram is probably the main hub of where you can find me. That's where I'm the most active.
Hmm.
So I'm at L Coulter Photo on Instagram. So feel free to follow me on there. I'm very active. You can send me a message if you're a photographer that's listening and you're interested in learning about how to grow your business. I am always accessible by DM. I have a Facebook group. It's free for photographers. There's a few hundred people in it right now that are every single day sharing tips back and forth with each other on how they're currently growing their businesses and the things that they're struggling with. So if you send me a message, I can send you links to that as well.
Well, that's wonderful. Thanks, Lindsay. And from all of
Thank
us at
you so
AQ's
much.
Blog and Grill, we'll talk to you later. Bye bye.
AQ's Blog and Grill.